everybody. We are here in Myerstown, Pennsylvania, and behind me is the Myerstown United Church of Christ. I believe at one time this is actually called like the Evangelical and Reformed Church, because this is one of those churches that are a Reformed church. Really beautiful structure. We'll go a little bit closer then. But this is actually, we went down to that, did a video on Tulpahawken Reformed Church. This is actually an offshoot of that church. The people in Myerstown sort of wanted to have their own church, so this wound up being formed, and I believe this was, I'm trying to think, I think it was 1855, and that's when this building was actually built. It might even be 1854. I'm looking at the stone up there then, but they became their own congregation then at 1860 instead of just being sort of an offshoot of Tulpahawken Reformed Church. And over here there's a little park. That's where the original Friedens Lutheran Church was at. Friedens in German stands for peace. The new church, which was built in 1960, is actually right back over there. The original structure, which was a stone structure, which was built right over there, was built in 1811, and it was started by John Andrew Schultz, who we've talked about, the Christ Lutheran Church down in Stoutsburg. This was an offshoot. It was much like the Reformed Church. They wanted to have their own congregation. So his father was the pastor of the church there down in Stoutsburg. He eventually became, I believe, the 6th governor of Pennsylvania from 1823 to 1829. But they built the original structure 1811, and then I believe it was in 1850, right in that range, they built a brick structure that stood there till 1960, and it was torn down when the new church was built. But that's a little bit of history of those churches. I thought it was cool too, like Frieden, some of the original trustees were Michael Lay, which we'll talk about him at some point. He was actually a friend of George Washington, and he actually was an officer in the Continental Army, as well as another gentleman as well. They served with Washington, and Washington actually came down and stayed at Michael Lay's plantation, which was to the west of town, which is a pretty cool place, a Tulpahawken Manor. But anyways, I'm going to turn this around, and we're going to look around this cemetery. This is called the Old Union Cemetery because it was both for the Reformed and the Lutheran Church. We're not going to go into the new one, which is over across the street, Locust Street. That's called New Union because it's just pretty new. So we'll go with that. Thanks, everybody. So we are here. I'm going to try to concentrate on that stone up there. Let's see if I can get a close-up of that. Let's see if you can see it a little bit better. It says the German Reformed Church, built 1854, and then it's a bunch of German. I am the Lord. Myerstown German Reformed Church. So I wasn't sure exactly what this, I lived right down here, but you look at the stonework. I love how they have the white stone on the corners. This is a beautiful, beautiful building. But this was built in 1854. The parsonage, I think this was originally the parsonage. This is now the church offices. That was built in like 1900 or something like that, which I think I got a major over close up. Sorry for that. But anyways, the parsonage there was built right around 1900, I believe. But this is shared with, like I said, the church over there is Friedens, which I had noted earlier. John Andrew Schultz was the first pastor and the founder of the church. He became the 6th governor of Pennsylvania from 1823 to 1829. He also, his father, I believe, was Christopher Schultz, who was the pastor of Christ Lutheran out in Stoutsburg. He was married to one of the Muhlenberg daughters. And I will note also with this building, at some point I'd like to be able to get in there. On the first floor, if the man's, I'm not sure if he's still alive yet or not, but he wrote the book on Myerstown for the Images Across America. It's called something different. It's like postcards and something else for the Myerstown book. But he actually runs, it's like Deedology or something like that. It's the study of postcards and things like that. But anyways, so John Andrew Schultz, the first pastor, he was pastor, I guess, like 1811 to maybe like 1822 or something like that, because he became governor 1823. he came from a political dynasty of a family with the Muhlenbergs, so it wasn't shocking that he became governor of Pennsylvania. But this is where the original Friedens church would have sat, and I believe the stone church would have sat here as well. But when they took it down, they wound up making this into a tiny park, and they'll have their Christmas tree here and other things of that nature. We are going to go across one part on the other side of the street where there's, I think it's like 6 grave markers that are military, and there's a cannon over there. So we're going to go through some of this. We're not going to go through all of it because it's a pretty big cemetery. But this is the Old Union cemetery for both the Lutheran and Reformed Church. But a lot of cool pictures too from the 19-teens. They had from like the steeples of either church looking up and down, and at that time too they had the trolley that went up and down from here through into Lebanon down to Schaefferstown and all that. And I just noticed a lot of these graves, they are in German. I always found these grave markers like really neat, the ones that are sort of laying down like this. But a lot of German immigrants, so a lot of these early ones are in German, so you really can't read them. I mean, they're in pretty decent shape actually. Sort of shocking. Now I'm looking at them here. Then they have the cool artwork on these different tombstones here. It's some kind of like flower, but some other really, that's a unique one there as well. And a lot of this is Revolutionary War period. That's a pretty neat, like a wreath type thing. That looks like it's War of 1812 there. I think there's a number of these are like War of 1812. I know Myerstown had a lot of guys, pretty important guys that were in the Revolutionary War and served directly with Washington. This is pretty neat. You can actually read it. There's Johannes Thomas, looks like Baffler. Might be another version of Bossler. I don't know. Because like the German spellings, I think. Oh, this is cool. Sort of wonder if there's Elizabeth. It looks like, I thought it was Schultz at first, but it might not be. I think John Andrew Schultz is buried down in like Lancaster region somewhere. It'd be interesting if the Lay family is actually buried in here. I haven't done a whole lot of research on this. It's just I used to live like right down the street for 15 years here in Myerstown. It's really a beautiful old like farmhouse. Just some really unique stones. This thing's pretty neat. It's got like a Gothic cathedral, the spires. J. Leonard Immel and Elizabeth Immel. Quick pause this here. Alright, so we're back on our video again. I just wanted to get a couple of sneak peeks, pictures, some of these different tombstones, but I'm trying to get some of the dates on here. Like it looks like they're born 1758. Oh, there's some Walborns. That's cool. 1760. It's that one's like looks like 1840 something. Yeah, actually, it's the most I've seen of like the War of 1812. This one here is Revolutionary War. Ouch, my back. I have that pinching thing that goes on. Yeah, it's Revolutionary War. Oldest part of the cemetery is over here. I think we're just going to concentrate in this area just because of my back being so funky right now. But it's just like the carvings are really deep. It's like the Henry Bauer and looks like Susanna Bauer. I know a lot of these over here, there's a lot of Revolutionary War vets over in this area, because Cliff and I had gone through here a little bit towards, I believe, early part of Cliff's channel, because I think he's been going Wandering Woodsman's now almost like 7 years, and we wound up coming over here the one time to check it out. A lot of the cemeteries, you go over more east, that's where you get those cemeteries where they have the very unique stones with like the skull and crossbones and that type of stuff. This is more traditional stones. Here's one. See, this is cool. You get to see like the differences between, here's what they look like today, here's one that's obviously been cleaned. That's what they would have looked like back in the day. I mean, that's, imagine this whole cemetery just full of stones like that. Like how, you know, they're so serene and beautiful, but then you have stones like that, just the beauty of the stone. And, you know, over time they go from one stone to another to another. And there's another one that got cleaned. It's just, anytime you see that sort of crown thing across, that's, you know, roughly that, you know, 1780s to 1820s, like Revolutionary War period. You'll see the Revolutionary War markers for the war markers and that type of stuff on a lot of those stones. And like I said, there's ones that are like a star. A lot of those are War of 1812. See, there's over there, there's that cannon and these 7 graves. I think all of them have that star, so they're probably all War of 1812. I just want to go over and check that out, potentially. Almost looked like I thought at first it was a Zeller. Ooh, there's a squirrel over there. Yeah. This looks like something's wrong with him. He's stuck in the bush or something. I don't know why these things have the sort of like the bolts that are going through them. There's like this stone split in half or something to sort of hold it together, or what's going on there. It's not a squirrel, it's a bag. I was looking at it, I was like, I think this looks weird. Yeah, pretty neat stones here. We'll go over to this part and then we'll try to sneak over there if we can. Yeah, I have a earlier video. I was doing one over at Quittapella Nature Park. I wanted to finish off with that. Really nice. These corners, like 160. But you got this heavy wind, and I guess 4 or 5 o'clock rain comes in. And then it gets pretty brutal with the wind, 20 to 25 mile an hour wind gusts. So I want to get those wheels going. It's almost set up like a bed. A lot of these cemeteries they had, you're only allowed to have certain types of stones and stuff like that, like you have certain monuments. Just see one down there I want to quick check out. It almost looks like a woman figure. Always like taking photographs of those because they're just so unique. Really just beautiful monument. And each of those things had some kind of meaning as well. We talked about before, if you see like a lamb, something of that nature, it's usually it means it's a child's grave. And then these had certain meanings as well. But yeah, that's a beautiful monument there. She's standing there holding the vase, most likely in mourning. But just got a quick picture there. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cool, unique stones here. Now, what I'll do is I'm gonna get some pictures of the old churches. Now the stone church, there's no pictures of because that was only in existence for I think like 30 or 40 years. But there are pictures of the original brick structure. Pretty neat looking church. It's a shame that they wound out tearing it down, but that's just sort of, there's a lot of I did a lot of research here in Myerstown. A lot of the old buildings, they just tore them down, and it's a shame because so many of those buildings had such a significance to the community, and just so many of them are gone. And it's like every single time one of those gets torn down, it's part of our history gone. But yeah, this is Friedens Lutheran Church and the Myerstown German Reformed Church's Cemetery, also known as Old Union. And like I said, the one that's over there, which I'm not going to quick run over there because my back is just what it is. That's the New Union. And then to the north of town, like the northwest, I believe you could say, they do have a new cemetery because it's sort of, I guess, it's run out of room in here. But I wanted to come down here. I wanted to do another cemetery video. And as I always say, every single one of these people had a story. They had people that loved them, and it'd just be interesting to find the stories out, who they were, the lives they lived, you know, their sorrows, their joys, you know, their defeats, their triumphs. Just tons and tons of stories here, and without these folks, we wouldn't be where we're at today. So with that, we will say that we'll see you on our next adventure, and till then, we will see you about town. Thanks, everybody. So I wanted to add some quick pictures of the old Friedens Lutheran Church, and it's on that corner like I had talked about. Now they have it as like a tiny park, and I think it's memorialized to an individual that did a lot for the community with history and that type of stuff. But at some point I want to do a video on Myerstown, some of the cool buildings that no longer exist, talk a little bit more about that building that the guy has, the Museum for Ideology, because that had a lot of different functions as well. But it really is a shame with this church because it was such a beautiful church, and it sort of had that front vestibule on there as well for a little while. It was pretty neat looking building. Like, I never saw it because it's torn down in, I believe, 1960 when the new church was built. Maybe it was a little bit later, I think, because I think I saw the one picture said 1967. But it's a shame these old buildings are gone, but that's what happens. So with that, I will say thank you once again, and we will see you all about town.